Okay, for proteins, this is the most abundant in terms of human body. Um, Proteins is most abundant next to water in terms of composition in the human body. And they are naturally occurring. They should be unbranched polymer in which the monomer is an amino acid. So the building blocks of proteins is called an amino acid, and they should be unbranched. So the connections between amino acid is just a straight chain. Walang branching na nangyayari. Okay? So amino acid is an organic compound that contains both the amino group, NH2, and the carboxyl group. So this is the carboxyl group and amino group. The amino acids found in proteins are always an alpha amino acid. When you say alpha amino acid, both the carboxyl group and the amino group are attached on the same carbon atom, and we call that alpha carbon atom. So if you could still remember, in naming carboxylic acid, carbon number 2 next to the COOH. So pag maraming carbon dyan, the common names usually uses the Greek letters wherein the second carbon atom is known to be the alpha, next would be the beta, and so on. So because of this, ito ang ating alpha carbon atom. The second carbon atom next to the second carbon atom in the chain. Okay, with reference as the COOH to be on carbon number 1 as carbon number 1. Okay, so again, there are components of the amino acid. It should have the carboxyl group and the amino group, which has been attached to the alpha carbon atom. That alpha carbon atom should also contain the hydrogen and the varying side chain or the varying component of amino acid that distinguish one from the other is the side chain. So ito ang nag-change, itong apat na ito. Okay. So itong apat na ito ang constant sa lahat ng amino acid that could be found in proteins, and the one that is varying is just the identity of the side chain. Okay? So there are more than 700 different naturally occurring amino acids, but there are only 20 that are considered to be the standard amino acid. Okay, from this standard amino acid, we have categories. We have nonpolar amino acid, polar neutral amino acid, polar acidic amino acid, and polar basic amino acid. So when we say nonpolar amino acid, still it contains the amino group, the carboxyl group, but the nonpolar side, the side chain is now nonpolar. When you say nonpolar, it is hydrophobic or water fearing. So generally, these are found in the interiors of proteins where there is a limited contact with water. And what are the nonpolar amino acids? These are glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, proline, phenylalanine, methionine, and tryptophan. Now, for the polar neutral, still, this has an amino group, one carboxyl group, and the side chain is now polar and neutral. Okay, so this, when we say polar, more likely they are soluble in water because water is a polar compound. Okay, so this includes serine, cysteine, threonine, asparagine, glutamine, and tyrosine. Okay, makita natin sa structure mamaya kung paano sila naging nonpolar and polar or polar neutral, acidic, or basic. Now, in terms of polar acidic, so it has still an amino group, one amino group, but this time two carboxylic group. So that makes it acidic because of the second carboxyl group that is part of the side chain. So we have two amino acid that falls under this category. These are aspartic acid and glutamic acid. For the polar basic amino acid, this time this contains two amino group, one carboxyl group, and that amino group is actually part of the second amino group is part of the side chain. So there are three basic amino acids. These are histidine, lysine, and arginine. Okay, so we have here the structures of these amino acids, and sometimes we use their chemical name or their names, actual name, but sometimes we make use of the three-letter code or the one-letter code, which is just synonymous to the names of that particular amino acid. So we have here the nonpolar. What makes it nonpolar are the side chains. Okay, because of the saturated carbon atoms here makes it nonpolar. Okay, or the reason why it is nonpolar aside from this chain of carbon atom are um, the benzene or the aromatic ring. Okay, for it to be okay, so let's um, scrutinize. So glycine will have GLY or G, alanine will have ALA or A, valine is VAL or V, leucine is LU or L, isoleucine is ILE or I. So proline is Pro or P. Okay, so yung P is proline. For phenylalanine, it could be PHE or Phe. But this time, the one-letter code is F. Okay, phenylalanine. Methionine is meth or M, and tryptophan is TRP or W. Okay, so medyo yung iba, it follows the first letter or the first three letters or the first letter of their name. Like this one, alanine, A, valine. But meron naman yung iba, since pare-parehas sila ng first letter, like proline and phenylalanine, they both starts with P. So, isa lang ang pwedeng kumuha ng P. And phenylalanine will get F. Okay? Same is true for tryptophan. Though it's T, kasi yung T ay kinuha ni threonine. Okay, dito sa neutral. So, tryptophan will have the TRP and it will have the W. Okay? Now, for polar neutral amino acids, this became polar because of, again, the property of the side chain, and more likely the reason is the presence of hydroxyl or the sulfur. So may mga hydroxyl sila, may sulfur sila, okay, or may amide linkage sila dyan, or may amide. Okay, so may hydroxyl. This aside from uh, rather the reason for their polarity is the presence of this molecule that is being attached in the carbon atoms. Okay, so serine will have SER or SER and S. Cysteine is CYS or C. Threonine is THR or T. Asparagine is ASN or N. Hindi niya pwedeng kunin yung A kasi A is for alanine na. Okay. Glutamine is GLN or Q. Tyrosine is TYR or Y. Okay. Then for polar acidic, we have two, the aspartic acid and the glutamic acid. Aspartic acid or ASP or D, glutamic acid GLU or E. Now, this time, aside from the carboxyl group that is present that is attached to the alpha carbon atom, meron pa rin siyang isang carboxyl group na makatatagpuan naman sa side chain. So, sabi natin kanina, for polar acidic, meron silang dalawang carboxyl group. That's why they became acidic. Okay, now for polar basic, so the side chain will have another amino group. Okay, aside from the amino group that is attached to the alpha carbon atom. So that is the reason why it possess basic property. And this includes histidine, his or H, lysine or LYS or K, and arginine, ARG or R. Okay, so these are the names of the amino acids together with their three-letter code and one-letter code. Okay, so yung makikita natin, lahat ng amino acids ay may constant or may fixed na structure. The alpha carbon atom, the hydrogen, carboxyl group, and the amino group. Ang nagbabago lang is etong side chain niya. Okay, so those are the amino acids. Now, all of these standard amino acids are necessary constituents of human protein. So, in our body, there are adequate amount of the 11 out of 20 amino acids because they could be synthesized from the dietary proteins and lipids in the body. If if nitrogen is also available. So, within our body, we could synthesize 11 out of that 20 amino acid. Okay, and we call those amino acids that we could synthesize as non-essential. Okay, now an adult human body could not produce adequate amount of the remaining 9 standard amino acid, and since we cannot produce them, so we had to get them through dietary means. So kailangan nating ikain at dapat present siya dun sa mga food intakes natin, and we call this 9 standard amino acid that could not be produced in the body as the essential amino acid. So these essential amino acids again are the um, amino acids that could not be produced inside the body. Rather, they should be obtained through dietary protein. And this includes histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, proline, tryptophan, valine, arginine. And the arginine is the 10th that is for the 10th essential amino acid, but this is only for rather for children. Okay, so semi-essential. Kasi sa children lang siya nag na hindi na produce. Okay? Now, we have we have complete dietary protein. When we say complete, these are foods or proteins that contain all the essential amino acid, okay, in relative amount in which the body needs. Okay, so lahat ng essential amino acid ay makikita dito sa complete dietary protein in a relative amounts in which the body needs them. So, they may or may not contain all the non-essential. Okay? Pero, ang meron sa kanila lahat ng essential. Okay? So, these are the casein from milk, so protein from meat, fish, and egg, as well as soy. Okay? So, ulitin natin. Complete dietary, lahat ng essential nasa kanya, though hindi naman lahat may or may not contain the non-essential. For incomplete, does not contain adequate amount of these essential amino acids. So it could be missing, pwedeng wala, or pwedeng kukonte. Kasi they may be present but not in adequate amount. Hindi yung kulang, rather kulang yung amount nila. So, incomplete, na considered pa rin silang incomplete. Okay, so take note, this complete and incomplete, ang reference lang natin, ang pinag-usapan natin is the essential amino acid. Hindi kasama sa usapan yung amount ng non-essential. So, this only referring to the amount of essential amino acid. And usually, this incomplete dietary proteins are proteins that are derived from plant sources. Okay? And the amino acid that is not present or that is missing or present but in small amount sa incomplete dietary protein, ang tawag natin doon ay limiting amino acid. These are the amino acid that is missing or present in inadequate amount or small amounts and in a dietary protein. So usually itong limiting amino acid na ito, ang common na limiting amino acid ay tryptophan, lysine, and methionine. So this tryptophan is not found in gelatin, they're not found in corn and beans. For lysine, they are not found, or maybe they are present but very small amount lang. in wheat, rice, oats, and corn. Then for methionine, they're not found in beans and peas. But we could mix them. We could combine these foods such that kung ano man yung kulang dun sa isang, say for example, sa isang food, pwede nating um, pwede nating ma-provide through another food. Okay, so, and we call this pairing as complementary dietary proteins. So these are two or more incomplete dietary proteins that when combined will provide an adequate amount of all the essential amino acids necessary for body functions or relative to body's need. Okay? So say for example, serving of rice and beans. Sabi natin si rice kulang siya ng lysine. Pero nag-serve tayo ng beans, beans naman kulang siya ng tryptophan. So whatever is missing for rice will be whatever is missing for rice like the lysine could be provided by the beans, and whatever is missing or inadequate amount in beans could be provided by the rice. So ganun yung complementary dietary protein. Now, if you're going to combine the beans and peas, syempre hindi sila complementary kasi they both lacks methionine. So hindi sila complementary kasi kailangan merong isang source na magsusupply ng methionine. Okay, since parehas silang wala, then therefore the pairing of beans and peas could not be considered as complementary. Okay? Pagdating pala dito sa mga pag-memorize ng mga ating essential amino acid, or pagdating dun sa pag-memorize dun sa nonpolar, pwede tayong gumawa ng mnemonics. So say for example, for nonpolar, pwede natin siyang specify na GAV, lip. Okay, GAV, lip, MWF. Para mas madali tayong mag-review. Okay, anong ibig sabihin ng GAV, lip, MWF? So you have G, glycine, alanine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, proline, methionine, tryptophan, and phenylalanine. So, hanap tayo ng way para mas madali nating ma-memorize yung mga amino acids kasi meron naman silang one-letter code. Okay? So, pagdating din sa essential, pwede rin tayong gumawa ng mnemonics dito. So, meron tayong histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine. So, humanap kayo ng way para mas madali yung pag-memorize natin dun sa mga essential amino acids. Okay?